We are going to follow Emma Brown. See where she goes. I mean, we could click on Forestry Friends Ltd. And find out exactly where that is, but that's cheating. Why would we want to cheat? We want to see someone drive in real time. I predict this person is going to get on the highway and go pretty much back in the direction that she came from, which is completely fine by me because, yeah, yep, see, there she goes. But I just really like that, how the road weaves through the buildings. We're going to see that again probably if she goes this way. That's not even my secondary urban hub. That's my tertiary urban hub. Yeah, when's the last time you heard the word tertiary in a Let's Play? Probably it's been a while. But yeah, there is some forestry industry over here. And yes, that appears to be where she is going towards. The forestry industry is actually very nice looking. Like, it doesn't look like your regular pollution industry. I mean, this is very pleasant. You know, there's no purple scum, which I like to call creep, like, you know, Zerg creep from StarCraft. Alright, so there we are. Drove her scooter to work. Very nice. Oh, we have a truck. Let's follow the truck. It's exporting forestry products, which means one of three things. He's either driving out of the city on one of our highways, he's going to our cargo terminal, or he is going to the harbor. So let's find out. Well, not really any information we can glean by turning right, because all three of those things are in this direction. But we'll see where this person goes here. That's all right. Getting onto the highway. Now, if they take the left route, they're going to the cargo terminal. If they take the right route, they're going towards the highway. Okay, cargo harbor it is. Most likely. There still might be a chance they're going on one of the highway exits, but here we go. Forward and forward. Just angle the camera down a little bit. So sensitive, these buttons. But screw it. We'll get a wide view of the world. Yep, the highway that goes through our secondary urban area goes through all of our stuff, pops out the other side. We saw somebody travel at that train station before. So much fun. Alright, now leaving the city into farming area, which really needs people. Another challenge of big cities like this, geographically big cities, is that it's really hard to get everything that you need from one place to another because people will commute long distances. They'll require materials from very far away. Hearses and dump trucks don't necessarily go to the nearest body or garbage. They'll go from one side of the city to the other, so there's kind of a diseconomy of scale when it comes to certain services in this game. Alright. This truck looks like it's going to... Yep, that's the ramp for the cargo harbor. One very important thing for cargo harbors, there is nothing, and I mean nothing in your city that generates more traffic than the cargo harbor, and it's all trucks. So what you need to do is connect it directly to a highway and make sure that it has a hella long ramp. If that's not working, or if that it's not the case, then you're going to have traffic out the wazoo. The cargo harbor is on this little island over here, which apparently has sick people on it. I thought I had a hospital pretty close, but I guess not, or at least people are not being served here. But if we could see underground, we could see that it's this is actually one of the least trafficked cargo harbors I've ever seen. So yeah, this city has a lot of forestry industry, as you can tell. So this guy is going in, and there he goes. Oh, he's going back now. I guess he was just unloading his cargo. Sometimes the trucks themselves will get on the ferry, but not in this case, which is completely fine. Now, you know what? We haven't seen much in this area. We're going to cheat slightly. You know how we're going to cheat? We are going to place down a hearse, or place down a crematorium. Because I could go to one and wait for a hearse to spawn, or just try to find a hearse, but that's, you never know when you're going to see one come out, you know, so we're just going to put that down, make everyone happy, apparently. And eventually we're going to see a hearse pop out. I mean, yep, there we go. We are going to call this, let's see. Who works at a funeral home? The Undertaker. Gong. That's right, the Undertaker himself, all 6'10" of him in his black cape and all that, is driving this hearse. Kind of amazing. You'd think that he'd make enough money that he wouldn't have to moonlight as an actual Undertaker, but no, that's what he has to do. And the thing is, we don't know where he's going, and you would think that they would go to places that were nearby, but they don't. They go all over the map. So we're going to watch this. And also I'm breaking this into mini episodes. I'm not going to make one long video of this. And it's going to be pretty clear what this is. I don't want to mislead anyone into thinking that I'm building in these episodes. It's going to be something along the lines of watch people drive around for an hour, whatever. But yes, this little street that's sandwiched between the railroad tracks and the highway, picking up that dead person. Can we zoom in anymore? A tad, yeah. But yep. And now going to the Hawthorne residence. Have to wait for these gates to go up. You know, it's really a gamble to make any kind of at-grade crossing in this game because you really have to have a good understanding of how many trains you're going to have. Because if you have too many, it's just your guys are going to be sitting there forever. But yeah, if you see in the slightly further distance, that train station up there, that one with the orange train, that leads to out of the city. That doesn't connect to any of the city routes, and if you see all the people, they're walking from one station to the other because they're getting off the train that brings them from the other cities, and on the train that will circulate them around the city. But away we go. Yeah, this person didn't go too far. Like sometimes you'll get like a bunch in an area, and the hearse driver will go to those. But sometimes you'll really go far afield. Yeah, we seem to be sticking to the local area right now because he's driving. Yeah, Up until that turn, he was actually driving directly back to the crematorium. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit anal. I mean, I could use the mouse too, but it just, I don't know, something about that. It responds very jerkily, and it doesn't really work that much better. I'm trying to adjust the camera with the mouse, but then again, I might need a new mouse. I mean, the number of drinks that I spill on my table and such, the amount of crumbs that are sitting around at any given time, I'm pretty sure that there's just like foreign matter in there. Yeah, I have to replace my keyboard at least once every few months sometimes, just because of the destruction wrought by spilling food. But yeah, so far we are really getting people from a very small geographic area. This, of course, being one of our more suburban areas. Making less dense suburbs is actually a little bit harder than making more dense suburbs. But, man, I can't understate the how much the ability to make curved roads has completely transformed how all of us play city builders. Like, man, just like the fact that everything doesn't have to be at a right angle to everything. I mean, with that limitation, I was still able to do some pretty awesome stuff when it came to cities like Trinity and such from back in the SimCity 4 era. But, just the freedom, the sheer freedom you have from this is extraordinary. I mean, the first few cities I made with this and Cities XL, I pretty much had zero straight roads. Of course, once you do that for a while, you kind of be like, yeah, there's no reason why every road has to curve every which way. So then you start getting into sort of a hybrid style. I've never made a city that was 100% grid, but I've made cities that were more grid than not, and a couple of those will be shown off. Usually, what I like to do is make the downtown area kind of gridular, and then go a little curvy for other areas, which is sort of what I do here. In certain areas, very very right angle, but not everything. All right, everything has been pretty local so far. We'll see where he goes. I just love the fact that every single car is going someplace particular, has a purpose. It's either delivering a person from one place to another, or it's delivering goods. Like, everything has a purpose. Everything works. There's 90,000 people in my city. It all works. You have no excuse. SimCity 2013. You have no excuse. Man. Not to say that this game is perfect, because it really has flaws. But you know what? This this really is the best city game that has been made so far, and it's kind of like, it's one of those things where when you play SimCity 4 for so long, you kind of get, or at least I, kind of get loyal to it. Oh, it's raining now. You'll see something very soon where you see this gleam on the roads from the rain. I really like that effect. But yeah, SimCity 4 has been out since 2003. I've played it since 2007. The SimCity franchise, of course, has been going on since 1995. No, I'm kidding. 1989. I first played it in 1995. So when all that happens, it's really hard to say, something from outside has come and supplanted it. But, I mean, the very last good SimCity game was SimCity 4. I mean, Sin City Societies was a joke, and uh, man, like, uh, this is gonna seem like the strangest analogy, but think of city building games as Superman movies. All right, the original Superman from the late '80s with the whole do 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 do, that whole theme and everything with what's his name, the guy who eventually fell off a horse. I forget his damn name. You know who I'm talking about. Someone will say it in the comments. That first Superman movie was SimCity 4. Awesome movie, awesome game, stands the test of time. Isn't perfect, but it's pretty darn good. SimCity Societies is Batman Returns, a kind of a mediocre, lousy, not very good Superman movie, and a kind of mediocre, lousy, not very good game. But in both cases, they're kind of benign in their suckiness. They're just sort of just like they're forgettably sucky. However, SimCity 2013 is Man of Steel. It is garbage. It is insultingly stupid. It is just I want to bash my head against the wall. Moronicness in both cases. And in both cases, they're presented as big deals, as innovations, as new things, as reboots, as rebrands, and they're both garbage. Like, I'm sorry, I know that there's fans out there of Superman, um, what's Man of Steel. It came out a couple years ago, but I'm sorry, that movie just is balls. I mean, I don't know if Confused Matthew's review of it is still up anywhere because I know he's had his problems, but hell, it's my review of SimCity 2013, right? You've all seen that. It's the same thing. It's the movie equivalent of SimCity 2013. So yeah, that is how I sum these things up. So what is this? I don't know. The A hypothetical Superman movie that is yet to be made and probably won't be made the way that comic book movies are going these days. To be completely honest, most comic book movies don't hold my interest that much. Some of them are good, most of them are mediocre, and some of them are balls. It's not, I have friends who are very much like, oh, I like all comic book movies are the same. I hate them all. I'm not that. I think that is a stupid way to think. I certainly enjoy a good movie, no matter what the subject matter is. If it's comes from a comic book or not, I'm willing to give it a shot. And if it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. What can I say? Speaking of movies that are kind of a comic book style, but not really based on a comic book, and given the weather that I see going around, all these things, I'm reminded of Unbreakable from 2000 by M. Night Shyamalan. Now, we've all heard of M. Night Shyamalan, and people always talk about The Sixth Sense as being its only good movie, and maybe they'll have one or at most two others that they will go to and name as other movies. Um, people will say Signs often is the only other good M. Night Shyamalan movie. I didn't think Signs was that good. I mean, it just, yeah. However, the one movie that isn't The Sixth Sense that I will give a lot of credit to is Unbreakable. I just really like that movie. It does have a really slow pace, so if that kind of thing bothers you, then I can understand not wanting to watch it. However, it's really well done. It stars Bruce Willis and Samuel Jackson, and Samuel Jackson's character in particular is a really just well-made character. Samuel Jackson portrays him very expertly. He's compelling, he's mysterious, he's tragic, but, he's ultimately, well, I'm not going to spoil the ending. I mean, it came out in 2000. You probably, either you've seen it or you don't care, so I might as well spoil it, but I'm not going to. It's, because, just for those of you who haven't seen it, yeah, Unbreakable, watch it. But I guess the link with comic books is that one guy finds out through surviving a train accident that he is literally unbreakable. He just can't be hurt. He doesn't get sick. He doesn't get hurt. He's stronger than he ever thought he was. This is Bruce Willis's character, and he's sought out by Samuel Jackson's character, who's the opposite. He has bones that are so fragile that something that would be not even noticeable to you or I, like imagine you tripped and fell over. It's like, well, that sucks, but who cares? If you were his character, that could break your bones for months, like, and it's just so well done. So I gotta say, Unbreakable, the other good M. Night Shyamalan movie, in my opinion. Does it have flaws? Yes. Is it slow-paced? Yes. But being slow-paced in itself does not kill a movie. One other movie that has a slow pace, that's one of my favorite movies of all time, is Blade Runner. Oh my god, that movie is absolutely in my top 10 of all time, and it's probably in yours too, and if it's not, you've either not seen it or you just don't understand good movies. I hate to say it like that because it makes me sound like George Wood from that Red Supre talking about Donkey Kong Country. But yeah, I definitely have that feeling about it. And speaking of not that, but other things, our Undertaker is going back to the crematorium with a fresh supply of corpses. Funny to say it that way, but yes, what he's doing. Wait a minute, are people getting off the highway to go back on the highway? I think some people actually are. Yeah, this game has a few odd quirks like that, where we tell the person to get on the train and get off the train again. But yeah, I mean, Blade Runner was directed by Ridley Scott, who also directed Alien, another great movie that is also pretty slow paced. Sort of started off the whole Sigourney Weaver thing too, because she played Ripley in that movie. But he also directed Blade Runner, and he also directed Gladiator a few years later, which is a good movie, but not, obviously not on the caliber of Blade Runner or Alien. But we're seeing. Okay, he's almost home. But yeah, it's very good stuff. And also, there's something about the soundtrack to Blade Runner 2, which is made by this guy called Vangelis, I think is his name, who's also worked with John Anderson of Yes, by the way. They had a thing going on at some point, but he also wrote the theme to Chariots of Fire, that guy. So it's pretty cool. And let's watch Leighton Miller. Man, that's an annoying name, but it doesn't matter. We're gonna watch him go to school. Okay, but yeah, there is something about the music of Blade Runner and the theme. It's this early 80s electronic sound. It's just mystifying. It's one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. Although, what I honestly have to say is my favorite movie soundtrack of all time, which also comes from one of my favorite movies of all time, is Terminator. And I'm talking the first Terminator, not Terminator 2, which is amazing, don't get me wrong, but the first Terminator, I firmly believe, is the superior movie. And I can get into more about that at a different time, but the soundtrack to that movie, it's just it just hits the spot perfectly. It's electronic, it's stark, it's unsettling. At some places it's very tense too. Like when the soundtrack plays and you hear this kind of what do they call it? I used to know all these terms. The chromatic scale, and it's very angular and irregular. There's sort of these odd beats going, and you have the main characters that are running, and it just adds to the feeling of anxiety with these characters running away from danger from the Terminator usually, and uh, and even the parts that aren't electronic, like the when you get to the sex scene later on, like the most plot important sex scene in any movie that I've ever seen. By the way, like it's like the theme, but it's like a gentler version, and it's very like intimate, but it's also sad, and it just like it's hard to explain just how good it is and how well it's all put together. But you know, the theme of Terminator, the do 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 do, which they also used a variation of that for Terminator 2. But the original, it's just stark, it's electronic, and it's majestic. It's just perfect. It somehow manages to be foreboding, mysterious, um, tense, sorrowful. It's just like all these things at once, and just the fact that the sound it has just fits the theme of the movie. It fits the aesthetic. It fits the subject matter. Machines, time travel. Desperation. The stake of the fate of the human race, really, and all that stuff. Like the weight of all that and the aesthetic of all that is represented in this theme, and it just gives me chills every time I hear it. And oh, look, this guy's train is finally here. But one other thing that's from the soundtrack, which isn't written by this guy, but is actually from another band, and he's sitting in the rear-facing seat, by the way, but that's all right. Let's angle down a little bit. But yeah, the scene where they're in the tech noir scene, which if you've seen this movie, you know what I'm talking about instantly. But there's like this weird 80s kind of pop rock song called "Burning in the Third Degree" that's playing, you know, and they do use a few pop songs for this movie, but they all sound weird. They're all foreign. They all sound a little bit off, I would say. And so you have this 80s song, and they're in this club, and just the way that the track is reverbed just is like this coolest sound. And it just creates all this tension, especially because this is the scene where, where Kyle Reese and the Terminator first encounter one another physically, and Sarah's there, and Reese is looking at Sarah, and the Terminator is looking for Sarah, and Reese spots the Terminator and all that, and they're moving very slowly, intensely, but at the same time, there's all this action going on in the club. People are dancing around, and you get this music, which is hot and intense, but at the same time, it's very just the treatment that they give it just gives you all the suspense and anxiety to the point where finally the anxiety breaks and Reese brings out a shotgun and boom, blows down the Terminator, who then gets up and starts, mowing down people with his machine gun, and all that action starts happening. I mean, that is how you build suspense, and that is how you build anxiety, and that is how you release that. I mean, it's just so like, it's mind blowing, and that's just like a small piece of what I like about this movie. I think it might be my favorite movie. If it weren't for Back to the Future, it would probably be my favorite movie. And also, people talk about James Cameron being kind of a prick and kind of a dick, and he made Titanic and he made Avatar and these other kind of very cliche things that were still very well done.